Stranded on Cetos! In the latest episode of Ahsoka, the rebel heroes make their stand against Morgan Elsbeth's dark forces. Devin and Peter will discuss. This episode contains spoilers for Ahsoka episodes 1 through 4, Star Wars Rebels, Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, and the Star Wars films. Hi, I'm Peter.
And I'm Devin, and this is I Am No Jedi, an Ahsoka podcast. Today we'll be discussing episode 4, Fallen Jedi.
So something I need to point out that's killing me from our last episode is at one point we said, not a lot rhymes with Marok. First of all, if we're spoofing that Ken song, it's he's Marok and nobody gives a... There you go.
It was right there.
It was... So anybody who listened to me saying clearly nothing rhymes with Marok and was thinking, what an idiot, I've joined you. I hear it now.
I also
don't know
think
what
an
thinking.
idiot.
Speaking of Marok, spoiler that we get to say goodbye to him finally.
Yeah.
Devin and I are pleased. If you've been listening to us already, you know that we were rooting for it to happen exactly like this.
Pretty much.
And him to be nobody. We were totally fine with that.
The one cool piece of information that we do have from the way that he died is that he seems to have been reanimated through Night Sister's magic. So I don't know who he was originally, if he was like an Inquisitor or a Night Brother or something like that. But how he disappeared in that like puff of green magic or the ichor or whatever they call it, that's like the reanimated Night Sisters from Clone Wars that are like the ghosts. So there seemed to be some Night Sister magic. I'm assuming Morgan Elsbeth was instrumental in his creation or whatever. So that's an interesting little piece of information that is cool and also doesn't give us some weird reveal that's going to feel super forced.
It may mean something again later, but it also just means he's made by the Night Sisters.
Yeah, that's all we need to know.
He's a Night Sisters demon. That's it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Probably
Classic Night Sisters.
A reanimated Inquisitor.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's a total.
I was going to say,
Night
of all the
Sisters
theories going around, all of the pointless theories, who is this guy? It's like, it's a dude in a mask. Have you ever seen a stormtrooper before?
Right.
Have you ever seen a Mandalorian? Everyone wears a mask in this series.
Right.
For crying out loud. Like, if he was Starkiller, which was a very out there theory, even though Whitwer's always doing random voices
It's
for
true.
these different things. And they're using stock footage, which someone pointed out, yes, they used stock footage of Maul in the first episode. That's what it was. Like, the idea of... No one pointed this out, though. They're like, oh, it's gotta be Starkiller. That'd be so cool. I'm like, what would be cool about that is it's Anakin's apprentice versus Vader's apprentice. That would be interesting.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting.
But...
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting.
It's your turn this week, if you want to give us a one-sentence summary of the episode we saw.
Okay, sure. I can do that this week. So here's my quick one-sentence episode recap. In Fallen Jedi, there's a duel with a fallen Jedi. A Jedi falls and finds a fallen Jedi.
Beautiful. So much falling.
So much falling and Jedis and falling and Jedis. So what were your overall impressions of this episode?
So good. Definitely made a lot of dreams come true,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, in terms of the storytelling.
I also liked it a lot. I didn't like this one quite as much as episode 3, but I did think that it was really good. I think episode 3 was such a great episode for characterization, and this one didn't do as much of that. But it did other things really well. But mostly it just made me really, really excited to get to episode 5. I was like, I just want to like skip over this whole week and just get to episode 5. So it did an awesome job of setting us up for the night. Like by the end of the episode, I was like, no, you can't end it here.
Yeah, good point. That like there's a very different storytelling focus in these two episodes.
Yeah.
So something awesome we do get to see for the first time in this episode in live action is the ghost. Like that was very satisfying.
Yes.
In all its glory.
backed up by Phoenix Squadron.
Yes.
It was really cool.
Yes. That was great. And I love, hearing them call Hera Phoenix Leader. And just having that was very cool. And we got our little tie-in with I can't remember his name, Carson, I think, the pilot who appeared in The Mandalorian. The last time we saw him at the end of Mando season 3, he was talking to none other than Garazeb Aurelios, who I'm still waiting to see in this. I have no idea. At this point, it doesn't make sense. I have no idea how he would actually be worked into this. I was just assuming this whole time that he would be in this, but now I don't know. But maybe.
I mean, I don't see why he wouldn't be worked in as just somebody showing up as backup.
That's what I'm figuring. Like we know he's out there, so like we're getting the whole Rebels family back together. We gotta have Zeb there. We gotta have weird older brother Zeb.
When they did the hyperspace jump and just wrecked Phoenix Squadron, it was cool to see some stakes. Mm-hmm. Notice how immediately after that happens, Jason says, "Mom, I have a bad feeling." Look. Now? Jason, it doesn't count to say I have a bad feeling about something unless you have the bad feeling before the bad thing happens. Also, your reaction is just, oh, I have a bad feeling. Everyone else's reaction is, yeah, no shit. Like,
yeah, we just lost half our squadron.
A really bad thing just happened. Several of our friends died. And all you got to say is, I don't feel so good. Dude.
Yeah, I had kind of similar thought. I mean, I think, the bad feeling he's getting is about Thrawn's return and not the thing that just happened, but also the thing that just happened. Like, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. It does seem a little bit late.
I want to talk about the choreography.
Go ahead.
There was a lot of samurai elements in this that Filoni's a big fan of. Was really cool. Both in the fight against Marok and Balin was really neat.
Yeah.
The form switching against Balin, so cool. Really gave me chills. I like how that fight escalated. It's like, are we going to do this? Oh no, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to do that. Okay, let's play. That's how you fight. Okay, let's try it again. And then the fight just kept escalating. I can't do it myself, but I'm sure there are people out there that are like identifying which lightsaber fighting style forms they're switching between at every moment. And I'm just like, whoever they have doing that, like, that's your full-time job. Like, someone's full-time job out there is on set being a lightsaber form expert of choreography. Fight expert of a fictional fighting style that is probably rooted in some real samurai moves, which is even cooler.
Yeah. Talk about dream jobs. Like, that sounds awesome.
Why did we study television?
We could have been doing that.
We should have been studying lightsaber forms. We could have been doing that all our lives. Like, what fools we were.
Wasted time. Yeah, that was really, really cool. Yeah, I love seeing the Kurosawa references, which are really fundamental to Star Wars. Seeing just a ton of that here. I felt like for me, some of these scenes, like the like long lingering looks and the like setup and stuff was like a little bit too long. And I get what they were doing. Like, that's a big part of those like samurai film scenes is like the setup and the like anticipation and the waiting. For me, some of that was like a couple of seconds too long. But yeah, the choreography was awesome. I thought the dueling was great. Chris pointed out something really cool that I wanted to mention, which I didn't notice on my first watch, but I love watching this with Chris because he'll like notice stuff that I don't, and he really pays close attention to the music. And he's a drummer, so he'll always notice like different things having to do with drum beats and things like that. But he pointed out that in the scene in the woods where Ahsoka is fighting Marok and Sabine is fighting Shin, as it's going back and forth between the two of them, the music changes when it goes to Ahsoka and when it goes over to Sabine. And when it's on Ahsoka, it has more of like a Japanese taiko drumming form. And then when it goes over to Sabine, it's more of the like orchestral, classic, like John Williams inspired, like, you know, kind of Star Wars soundtrack that we're used to hearing. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. And it has more of that, like, there'll be like the taiko drums or like the woodwinds or something like with Ahsoka that's more of the like traditional Japanese kind of influences. So we were talking about what that might mean, and he was like, maybe it's the, you know, giving Sabine the kind of like heroic Star Wars movie, you know, kind of vibe of like as like the rising hero and something. I don't know exactly what it's saying there, but it's cool that they did that, kind of like change the tone subtly with the music cutting back and forth between those.
That's really cool. I definitely feel like Sabine is being set up in her own Campbellian journey, despite this being Ahsoka's show. And that's what's kind of cool about Star Wars. It's like, it can be like Obi-Wan can be a main character of something, even though he's ultimately going to be like, he's destined to be the mentor figure for Anakin and Luke. He still has his own story that is its own arc. And so does Ahsoka. Hers is more of like kind of a Western wanderer, whereas Sabine, Ezra, Luke, they all have like the hero's journey. Sabine's is interesting because unlike Luke and Ezra, who are like, oh, we have the potential because male privilege to just use the Force and whatever.
Are you calling the Force sexist?
She has the potential just because a little bit. I don't write these things. I'm just observing. The Force is apparently very sexist. They're like, oh, we're going to write Mara Jade as a very powerful female. Nope, that doesn't exist anymore. Okay,
JK.
So Force is a little sexist. Like, let's face it. It is a boys' club. Dooku, Qui-Gon, Yoda, Obi-Wan, Anakin, Luke.
Ahsoka.
It took a really long time for us to get Ahsoka.
Oh, yeah.
It took a long time
Ahsoka's like our
her.
one. And like, this is one of the...
And she said, fuck off.
Yeah.
She literally was like, this boys' club.
It's true.
She was like, this sucks.
I was like...
Y'all are sexist. I'm out.
It's true. Like, yeah, no, it's like, I was talking to somebody about this earlier, like, you know, growing up as a huge Star Wars fan, like, I had Leia, and I loved Leia. Leia's was not a Jedi at that time, but she was still a badass, and I still loved her and dressed up as her all the time, and that was great. And then when the prequels came along, we got Padme. She was also pretty cool. She's got wardrobe for days. That's great for her. And she's, you know, a badass in her own right. And she was really cool. And I'm like, great, we have this other character who's also not a Jedi, but she's also a cool female character in Star Wars. And then with Attack of the Clones, we got a whole bunch more female Jedi introduced just so that they could be killed off. But I was so excited to have... I was like...
Just so they could die.
No, literally. But we got Ayla...
No, you're not wrong. This was before the era of kill your gays, when it was just kill your women. Like, female character in an action movie dies.
Yeah,
that's their purpose.
That's their purpose.
Supernatural.
So we had Shakti, we had Ayla Secura, we had Luminara Unduli, we have all these like really cool Depa Billaba. And they have like no lines. They might have a line. They have no actual characterization in the films. But there's, you know, there's like the companion books and the like encyclopedia books and stuff that my brother and I were like super into. And so I like learned everything there was to learn about these like awesome female Jedi, which was not very much. It would be like, they might have a little like, you know, Shakti is a Togruta. And I'd be like, cool. But they were not developed characters. They were just introduced. But I was like, female Jedi, awesome. I was like so excited about that. And that was like all I had. And so it wasn't until the last couple of years over the pandemic, you know, in my 30s that I finally started watching Clone Wars and see Ahsoka's story. And I'm like, and I just kept thinking like, oh my God, if I had been a kid and had this character as a kid, like this awesome female Jedi with her own like really, really rich story and characterization, like, oh my God, how awesome would that be? And I was just like, I'm so happy for girls growing up with Star Wars now that they have characters like Ahsoka. And I'm happy for me now that I have a character like Ahsoka, even though I'm like in my 30s. I was going to say grown up, and then I was like, no, in my 30s works. Because you're never really grown up as long as you don't let yourself be, which I'm not. But yeah, that's my rant about what Ahsoka means to me in Star Wars universe. I guess I think it's just, yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm so excited about this show and about continuing her story, because she's just like so meaningful.
Yeah, I think, and that's our podcast. That's the note we're going to end on right there. That was that was too special and heartfelt. I feel like Sabine is like, before I made my Jedi are sexist joke, I was like, she has the potential in terms of how brilliant she is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, just given how smart she is, how capable and stuff, it's a great story in terms of like personal potential to be used for good or evil, and that was something they touched on in Rebels with the whole she made a weapon that was used for bad. Mm-hmm. So if it's like that's where you started, where's it going to end? She's always going to have to choose her whole life doing good or bad, and she's an incredible asset to anybody. So I kind of put Ahsoka has the opportunity to prevent what happened to Anakin from happening to her. Now that they've revealed, their beef is that Sabine's Mandalorian family, like, well, her actual family, not her Mandalorian family, but just being specific because it's a found family story. Right. They died. She sort of blames Ahsoka, is what's implied, and now she's kind of like desperate for like, to have someone that means something to her, which is confusing to me. This was a nitpick I had, because I'm just like, what about Hera and Zeb? Like, they're still that, even if she's mad at them, it's not like Ezra Bridger is your only family. I'm like, that is the most annoying brother.
Yeah, I was also thinking the same thing.
And the others must have done something. The others must have done something so atrocious for her to be like, I must save Ezra, even if it destroys the galaxy. Like, just it seems it's a big swallow. It's a very big one to swallow. Yeah, wow, I'm really pulling some Tobias Funke with phrases.
I mean, you have to hear that, right? Just get a tape recorder.
Yeah,
you know what? We're recording this. Just listen to it back. Yeah,
I'll listen to it back and I'll feel like a fool.
When you were talking about Sabine being so brilliant in her own right, it was making me think, and this is going to be kind of another tangent, but did you see the live action Mulan that came out a few years ago?
I did not.
Okay, well,
I kind of didn't want it to ruin OG Mulan.
That was
for me, which is so great.
Correct inclination, because I did not like it at all. And here's my biggest beef with that movie. They made it so that Mulan basically has the Force. It's like, and I think they called it chi in the thing. It's like these, energy like powers basically, and it basically operates like the Force. And she's, able to do all this stuff because she's got magical powers, which completely negates the whole freaking point of the story of Mulan, which was like a woman can be just as badass and save China and do all this stuff as a man. And this movie made it a woman can totally be a badass and do all this stuff and save China, provided she has magical powers that make her more powerful than a man, which completely negates the whole point. It made me so mad. And so I'm thinking of that when you're talking about...
Very flabbergasted, infuriated.
That's the correct reaction that you should have to me telling you this.
I'm ready to dive into this hard, but I don't think I need to. I think everyone's seen Mulan, and it's like, yo, they didn't cheat. In Mulan, she didn't have powers, and she had to figure out how to beat an army.
Yeah, she just
and a bunch of giant hulking dudes single-handedly, and it wasn't like BS. It wasn't like, she manages to just punch them out. Like, they're like, no, she has to like get fireworks. She has to lure them.
She was brilliant.
She's got a die-hard situation. This on hard mode.
Yeah, exactly. She figured it out. Yeah. She strategized. She came up with a brilliant plan. She was really brave and courageous, and those were all the things that made her special. And so this movie just it it made me so angry. So bringing
like,
that,
if you have a better idea, fine, but like, that's not a better idea.
no, it's a terrible
like,
idea.
Just do it again.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, that's where my mind went when you're talking about Sabine, and I think like this is one of those cases where like, and I'm still hoping that they're not doing that, because yeah, she is absolutely brilliant. She's brave. She's a great strategist. She's like, you know, has all these wonderful, wonderful qualities of a leader and of a warrior. And she is very, very capable in her own right without having the Force. And she deserves to, you know, be able to accomplish things on her own merit and her own qualities, and not needing to have the Force be a part of that because it's not a part of her story. And like going back to what I was saying earlier, like I of course always love to see new awesome female Jedi. Like I don't want to be like, you know, we don't need another female Jedi, because I will always take more female Jedi. But it does not make sense for her story that has been being developed for years and years and years. For the character that already exists for her, it does not make sense.
Strong agree. It's like, are we ever gonna have like someone who can be a pivotal, awesome player in literally just the main franchise of the genre that is space battles, that isn't a Jedi? Like, why not? We have all these rebels, we have people with lasers, we have Mandalorians, you know, jetpack warriors. There are all these different people, but no, it has to be a Jedi at the center of it every time. Be interesting if it was just someone who's just like really incredible and well versed in that world. Like, she's also like an artist. Like, she's at the center of it all. She drew the symbol that became like the rebel symbol. Like, there's a lot going on there. Another thing I thought of was when she faces off against Baylan, it really reminded me of when she faced off against Maul. I feel like Ahsoka has a really great command of respect with her enemies.
Yeah.
Like, she can kind of walk up and it's like, we know we're gonna fight, but we can talk first. And that works every time, because they're all just like, yo, I have a spiel. She's like, I'll hear your spiel. You're probably not gonna turn me.
Yeah.
But like,
but I'll hear it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even like I'm letting you monologue. It's like an actual, like, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Like, it works every time.
Help me get to know you.
And then they're just like, so are you gonna... Yeah, they're like, so do you buy into my evil spiel? And she's like, no, we're still gonna fight. And they're just like, okay, all right, well, I appreciate the talk. You know, it's like that every time. And I'm like, that's, what a vibe. What if, like, other people would come in and Anakin would just be like, well, no, I'm gonna take him now. You know, just gonna run at him and just be all like, I fight you. I'm a hero. And Ahsoka's just like, are you really a bad guy? They're like, I don't think I am. And she's like, oh, no. No, you are.
No, you are, though.
So,
I can see that you think that, but
like
you
that.
actually are. Yeah, that's a nice observation. One of the things I had seen, I hadn't really picked up on this myself, but I've seen people commenting on how Baylan and Shin's lightsabers are more of like an orangey red than like the red that we usually see in Sith. And one of the theories, I don't think this is confirmed, but one of the theories that I saw, which I kind of like and might make sense, is that they were actually temple guards, so they had yellow temple guard sabers, and they bled the crystals from those, and that it maintained some of the yellow still left from that, and that's what made the orange. So I'm interested to see if that might be something.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very cool
that would
idea.
make sense.
Especially...
Yeah. They've got...
Baylan's wearing Clone Wars armor.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Shin's armor seems to be also kind of similarly inspired. They've got that kind of armor going on. Like, he would have been in the temple, but the fact that he, you know, somehow didn't become an Inquisitor, you know, I don't know. It's interesting to see if that might be where it's going.
So, here's my thing with Shin.
What's your thing with Shin?
I feel like nerds will appreciate this, but I feel like she's the Jason Todd of the Star Wars universe. She really feels out of place with Baylan.
Remind me who Jason Todd is.
Jason Todd was the second Robin, who was like kind of like a bad kid.
Okay.
Who was just like angry, and Batman's like, I'm gonna take a chance on you, and it kind of goes sideways.
Okay.
I just feel like everything she does is like, what is it? Okay, here it is. When she force chokes Sabine towards the end, but then Baylan's like, no, I gave her my word. We gotta be cool. And she's like, okay. I'm like, that's definitely foreshadowing. So as soon as, like, my master's not around, I'm gonna try to kill you. If I were Sabine, I'd be so not worried. Because all this girl does is play with her food. Like, Sabine is literally Thanos in all of their interactions, where she's just like, you should have gone for the head. Like, just busy monologuing and stuff. When like Sabine tricked her out with the Force in this episode,
which
I was like,
that
I'm
was
gonna
like
pretend to try and use the
my
Force.
favorite.
Really
I loved that moment. It was so good. And she like
just Sabine is so smart.
Yeah, that was so good.
In that moment, I yelled at the TV because Shin goes, "You have no power," and I was like, wait, is she just realizing that? Or is she taunting? Because both are stupid. If she's just realizing it, then it's a whole, like, okay, can't Force users sense other Force users once they're competent? Like, at least a little bit? So I'm like, is she just figuring out that Sabine can't use the Force? And then it's like, okay, maybe she's just taunting her, like, oh, you try to do it. And it's like, oh, you have no power. And I'm just like, okay, Draco Malfoy of Star Wars, like, why are you wasting time being like, I'm gonna make you feel shit? Like, why? Why? Like, you already know how to use the Force. Why are you playing with your food so much? She's always playing with her food, even in episode 2 when she's like, I'll shoot at Ahsoka and not her ship, which was our big beef from the last episode.
Exactly. That's what, like, I think you're not really off base with that, and I like Shin as a character, and I'm intrigued by her, and I think that the actress is good, and she does a good job of. She's got these little moments of like curiosity, and she's like, I have a feeling she's gonna end up turning toward the light. I think, but it's
a good performance.
It's a
she
good
just
performance.
Definitely has some monologuing.
I think. Yeah, I
there's
think
just some villain problems.
Yeah, I think it's villain problems. I think the villain problem is I need to keep coming up with scenarios where this character is fighting but not winning. And so they just need to keep making her lose in scenario. Like, obviously she can't win because then the show ends because she kills the heroes. But like, so they kind of just need to keep making her lose, but it's often in scenarios where she really should not lose until she's really bad at her job. I think part of it is like, so between Baylan and Shin, we need to have fewer. So Baylan is like the master, and we need to have him in fewer fights because he's like a big boss battle, right? So the battles with him need to be fewer and farther between, and they can have higher stakes because of that. Like in this battle, this duel with Ahsoka and Baylan, Ahsoka gets thrown off the cliff. Like he wins essentially. But you can't do that every episode because then you're, killing somebody or defeating somebody every episode. And doesn't work like that. So Shin is like the lower level boss that's like, all right, we can fight her more and the stakes aren't as high and we can just keep escaping from her. But then her character suffers from that because they have to just keep escaping from her. So like it's hard to make a villain scary when they just, like, a large part of their purpose is to just keep getting in fights that the heroes have to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. I agree with that. I think that's a problem with writing anything Star Wars that lasts as long as a TV show. This was my problem with Clone Wars for a while. Everyone's like, Clone Wars is so good, and it is. It's full of such rich stories. And they do spread out the amount of times you see some of the recurring bad guys. But I was still like, yo, look, even if they fight Dooku only they fight Dooku like maybe 4 or 5 times in the Clone Wars and he gets away, and I was just like, that's too much for me. Like, I like the idea that when they see him again in Revenge of the Sith, I like the idea that that is the next time they see him, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I like that. It's been a couple years. It's been a whole war. They go at it differently. Anakin's stronger. It's a different turnout. Like, instead, it's like Clone Wars. Oh, we've been fighting Dooku for years, just playing cat and mouse. He's Leonardo DiCaprio and we're Tom Hanks. He's Tom and we're Jerry.
I like that reference because Cat and Mouse is the name of one of the first episodes of Clone Wars.
Oh, that's perfect. I wasn't thinking of
not
that.
In release order, but like in chronological order, because some of them are like released out of chronological order. But I think it's either the first or the second. I think it's the second episode in chronological order is Cat and Mouse. It might be the first.
Which, if you haven't looked up Devin's amazing How to Watch the Clone Wars in the different orders and different arcs that you'd like guide, you should. It's a really cool graphic that she made and is on Reddit.
Thank you for the plug.
Making waves.
Making waves on Reddit.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of that. I put a ton of work into it, so thank you. I hope that it helps people.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody's trying to watch Clone Wars and struggling to get into
uniform.
it, thanks. Yeah, so there's that. My other thing that I wanted to say about Ahsoka and Balin's duel is just that it's so pretty. Like, the whole aesthetic, like, and I mentioned this before, that the star map just is so beautiful, and just the whole aesthetic design of the show in general really is gorgeous. But this duel that they have in this like Stonehenge area with the star map all around and like the red trees in the background, like, it's just so pretty.
And also, I get so bored of lightsaber fights where the only thing getting affected is the fact that two lightsabers are smashing together. You know, psh, psh, psh. When Shin was fighting Sabine, every time she hit a tree, she slashed the tree in half, the tree fell down, and it was affecting the environment around them. And I'm like, that is a detail that I wanted in my lightsaber battles. Like, Balin was throwing rocks at Ahsoka. Yeah. They're having a lot of fun with the camera. They're definitely, I already said it about the choreography, but I feel like I could notice like her style that Anakin was training her to use against the clone troopers.
Yeah.
Speaking of fights, did you notice how the exact Huyang makes a prediction? He's like, you guys got to fight together. You got to stay together. And they think they're staying together, but they're literally not.
No.
You know, it's like teamwork. You go for the map.
No.
And I was just like, that is not staying together.
No.
Like, it would be so easy. Just finish this, then that.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that.
Rant time. Here's what this makes me think of.
Yeah.
Because we're watching it and she's like, go for the map. We're like, why don't you just both fight Shin and then both go get the map? This would make way more sense. Here's what this reminds me of. And this is my biggest beef with Revenge of the Sith. So you've got Obi-Wan and Yoda.
Yes, I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm really... I had the same thought. I'm so excited. Take it away.
Okay, so you've got Obi-Wan and Yoda. They realize that Palpatine is the Dark Lord of the Sith that they've been, like, trying to discover. They realize that Anakin has gone genocidal maniac and gone off to Mustafar, and they're like, oh no, this is all terrible. They're like, well, there's 2 of us and 2 of them, so why don't we split up and you go off to Mustafar and fight Anakin, and I'll stay here on Coruscant and fight Palpatine. Mustafar is far... I don't know how long it takes to get to Mustafar from Coruscant, but it's probably a long time. Why not? You're both there on Coruscant. Both fight Palpatine together, kill his ass, and then go to Mustafar together to face Anakin. Why? Yoda and Palpatine's fight will be over by the time Obi-Wan gets to Mustafar. Why in the world would they do this? This makes no sense.
You have a chance of turning... You can turn Anakin back if you take out the Emperor first. He can be like, I'm making a new empire. They can be like, yeah, dude, we already shut that down.
Yeah,
we
that's...
already completely shut that down. It's kind of just you now.
Cut off at the head.
You're going to beat both of us? Like, you threw a tantrum and killed all our friends. So the
Yeah.
options are, you come quietly, we rehabilitate you in an insane asylum for years, as, you know, parental figures do, or we fucking put you down. But, like...
Yeah, these are
like,
your options.
Why on earth would they split up? Why?
It makes no
Stupid.
sense.
Like,
so stupid.
Because we have to take them both out immediately or not chance one getting both of us? No, stupid. Either way, Obi-Wan has to travel to Mustafar. They're both already there. Who is running travel for this team? I know all their friends are dead, but still. It's just basic arithmetic.
Exactly.
They made the exact same mistake. Also, it's an even stupider mistake, because one of them is not even a Force user. Ahsoka demonstrated when she was literally fending off Baylan. She's busy fighting for her life, and she sees Shin, and she's like, oh, you killed Sabine? Fuck you, bitch. And she just, like, throws her into a wall, almost kills her. And I was just like, okay, so why didn't you just do that in the forest?
Exactly.
Because Sabine said, I got this, and
clearly
she can't even use the Force?
It's
a big I got this.
Yeah, last time she fought this woman, she impaled her. And now she's, like, so confident. She's like, I got this. Don't worry. You don't even need to stick around. This is not an issue for me. It's like, well, yeah, it should be, like...
I believe in myself now that I've had some depressing lessons in a spaceship.
I did my pixie cut, and now I'm on board, and I can do it. Like, no. She's right there. It's like...
That was very frustrating.
Yeah, she's right there. She could just help her and then go. It would be so easy. So, yeah.
That was my note. I was just like, when she shouted, I've got this, I was just like, yeah, but that's...
But you don't have to. You don't have to.
Yeah. It's like if you do one little league softball lesson, and you don't even do well in that lesson. They're like underhand throwing you pitches and you keep missing. And you throw the bat on the ground and you're just like, I can't do it. And then 2 seconds later, Randy Johnson steps up onto the plate and is going to throw a pitch at you. And you're like, don't worry. I got
it now.
That's what that is. Except Randy Johnson is throwing a pitch at you that kills you if you don't hit it, you know? Like, those are the stakes.
Yeah.
But it got us where we needed to go with Sabine making that choice. That I still am like, I want to see where it goes, because I'm like, you have Hera and Zeb. But I like that, like, the idea behind the story is someone makes a bad choice in the middle. Usually Star Wars isn't about, like, making a bad choice in the middle. It's about just staying the course as a good guy, I feel like, to the end.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Turning around at the last second. Yeah. This is more of, like, kind of a half measure of screwing up. As opposed to, like, the full spectrum.
Yeah. The full spectrum screwing up. That's a good way of explaining that. As she was putting the star map in Baylan's hand, I went, that's such an Ezra move.
It is.
I was like, but, and, you know, I was reading a thing about it that explained this scene as Baylan basically using Force empathy on her. That's, like, not as blatantly, it's basically manipulating her through the Force, not through, like, a Jedi mind trick of just, like, making her do the thing he wants, but tapping into like her emotions and using that to, like, empathetically, like, know what words to say to, like, manipulate her to get her there. And so that's why he's like, he's the only family you have left, even though, like, she has Hera, she has that, like, she's got, you know, other members of this found family. And so, but I think in that moment, it makes sense for him to kind of twist that knife and be like, he's the only one, you know what I mean? So I think it's that allows me to kind of take some blame off of Sabine for just being like, what are you, an idiot? To be like, all right, he's actually using the Force to manipulate her in this moment.
I think both of us are mostly just frustrated by the claim that Ezra is your only family with Sabine, because that's a little bit of we've already talked about that. Yeah. But, like, I definitely read into that too. Mm-hmm. Like, she's too smart to be affected by a Jedi mind trick. Right. She's not the weak-minded. But like the minute I saw him like sense and like kind of read her mind a little bit, I'm just like, oh, he just figured out what strings to pull on.
Right, exactly.
Because she's on the fence, and he just knows how to drive it home.
Right, exactly.
Which was cool. That was cool, because it's just like, yeah, of course everybody wants a reason to do the easy thing when everything else seems hopeless. Like, it made perfect sense. I honestly feel like if I were in Sabine's shoes, I probably would have done the same thing.
I was gonna say, I was
thinking about what am I gonna do.
I was thinking about that after.
Like every other option seems bad.
Totally. I was thinking about it after I watched it because I was like, in the moment you're like, don't do it, But then like I'm thinking about it after, I'm like, she really didn't have too much choice. Like she could hurl it into the ocean, which like they're just gonna go down there and get it probably.
Force catch it mid throw.
Yeah, exactly. That
it out of the air. Yeah.
Work. She would. First of all, she's holding it at blaster point, which does not seem like the correct way to destroy that thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, set it down.
Yeah.
And aim it at it, like, yeah.
I'm like, you're gonna shoot your hand off.
There's a more strategic way to do this without shooting your hand off.
She's got a lightsaber. Like in the end, when he destroys it with the lightsaber, I'm like, now that's how you destroy a star map. But
exactly.
But yeah, like Ahsoka, for all she knows, is gone. We got Baylan and Shin here who are, she can't even fight one of them. She's not going to be able to hold her own against both of them. She doesn't really have a good route to escape. So she really doesn't have any good options here.
To be fair, if you feel like, hey, my life sucks, Kanan died, then my whole family died, I lived through a war, my brother is missing, I'm estranged from all my mentorship figures, and one just died in front of me, and now I'm gonna die. You're just gonna be like, God, no, this is just stupid. Let me get my brother back, and I'll see if we can turn this thing around. Because why just die for all of that? Like, why? People always hate on, why didn't you do the right thing if you're the hero? It's like, they usually give the hero a pretty shitty life. And that's what makes it hard. Like, can you imagine if it's just like, hey, the star of this Star Wars movie basically has the background of a Disney Channel original movie character. They were born in a suburban gated community, and Owen and Beru Lars were dentists. But then, all of a sudden, someone, Vader, was mean to them at school, and they challenged them to a speeder race. If you don't win the speeder race, you'll just feel bad when you go to school. Oh no! What if... How hard it must be to do the wrong... No, they, burned Beru and Owen alive in front of Luke, and they were just like, your life really sucks now, bro.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. Like, that's all of their stories really suck.
Yeah,
which is a whole nother tangent. You and I have ranted about how Luke shrugged after that. Yeah. Look, the skeletons of your only family in front of you, Luke. Luke.
Oh no.
Anyway.
Well, what should we do the rest of our day?
Yeah. It's like, what next? Tamiko clubbing?
Off to the cantina, then.
Ben's like, I know a sick place where we can chop off some people's arms. I have a friend from space who loves collecting arms. I'm always getting in people's arms in bars.
That's how I like to deal with my trauma. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I just love that callback. In Attack of the Clones, they go into a bar, chops the person's arms off. All Obi-Wan does is he's Anakin, you want to get drunk? I feel like collecting some arms.
I could use a new arm for my collection.
Lend me your hand, Anakin. Did you see what I did there? No, Obi-Wan. I already gave Dooku my hand.
I'm down to my last one.
And there we go with our segue into Anakin. Seeing him.
Yes. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend.
And World Between Worlds.
The World Between Worlds.
Both.
I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I didn't cry.
I didn't do that, but I was very emotional. I was very emotionally excited, especially because he called her Snips.
My heart. I was honestly, and I don't even think I had this on our list of like before the first episode came out, we talked about like what we were hoping to see in the series. And I don't even think this was on there because I think it was more than I ever let myself dare to dream. Like, I never been considered Force Ghost Anakin and Ahsoka. And I don't know why, because that seems like the number one thing I would... We talked about her talking to Luke and Luke telling her like, oh, you know, he came back to the light at the end and like her learning that would be so beautiful. But obviously this is like her actually communing with his Force Ghost is even better than that. And I never even crossed my mind as like a possibility. So that just like, I was like, oh my God, I can't emotionally handle this.
I feel like we still don't know if it's a Force Ghost. It could be several different things.
That's true.
Someone pointed out, like, I feel it could be a dream sequence because Ahsoka's been to World Between Worlds.
True.
So it doesn't mean that she's there because we don't know how she got there.
Right.
If it was Anakin that pulled her out as a Force Ghost or as a time traveler that discovered World Between Worlds, which is another theory going around, which I don't know how I feel about that one.
Well, he's got the blue Force Ghost glow. But if it's just a dream, though. He's got that Force Ghost glow about him. I think he did.
Everything's glowing. I gotta go back.
Everything's glowing. Don't you? Everything's
you gotta
glowing.
Go back.
Me. I'm literally.
Because I was looking at him closely because something looked weird about his face. I was like, why did they do weird CGI to his face?
They de-aged him. I think.
They don't need to.
They don't need to, but I think they did
add a
anyway.
couple pounds of makeup. They totally did. They definitely did. Both times I watched it, I was just like, why did they do this to his face? It's fine.
Oh, wait. He's not glowing. You're right. He's not glowing. I totally thought that he was, probably just because that was what my brain expected to see, but you're right. He's not.
But he might be... So he might be a time traveler.
Interesting.
And Force Ghosts don't always have the glow. Sometimes they fully appear. They solidify, and then they disappear again. Like Ben did that in Return of the Jedi. Started off glowing, solidified, then disappeared again.
Because he could... Right. Because I was thinking about this, because he could have appeared to her as a Force Ghost at any point, presumably.
Yeah.
So... Interesting.
No, I know why he didn't. I mean, it's a theory. They could always do whatever they want with this, but traditionally, we see Force Ghosts in two scenarios. Mm-hmm. They come to you when you need them, or you finally see them when you're ready.
Right.
I don't think she was ready to see him because she definitely felt massively conflicted about him for years. Mm-hmm. Like,
that's true.
And then after he died, she probably didn't start losing some of that conflicted feelings until she met with Luke, which we know has already happened. Mm-hmm. And like he revealed to her, yo, I got him to go back. And she's like, what, you? I don't know. But but like that still doesn't fully resolve everything. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's, I don't know, it could mean a lot of different things.
Oh my God.
They clearly they have calibrated it so well to leave it that open-ended at the end of this episode.
Now my mind is reeling with like so many other
tantalized
possibilities.
Waiting for 5.
I know, like as soon as this episode ended, I was just like, I just want to skip over the whole next week and just get straight to episode 5. I like can't think about anything else. And now my mind is reeling with all these other possibilities because like this could, if he's Anakin from another time, like from a time before he turned to like. He could be appearing at a time when he found the world between worlds, like just before he turned into Vader or something.
Mortis or something.
Oh, could have been before.
He has that outfit. Clone Wars were only 3 years.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And they use his outfits he's wearing to really specify what time period.
Yeah, it is. And his hair, because his longer hair is like kind of toward the end.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Didn't think I'd see you so soon is an interesting choice of words.
Yeah, I wonder. Oh my god, I wonder if it's like after she
Oh.
left the order.
Well, it has to have at least been, because his hair got longer.
Right.
Here's the thing. Because they tease us by playing the Darth Vader theme as it fades to credits.
Yeah.
So what if it wasn't Anakin, but Vader that actually found the world between worlds and then found out that Ahsoka was going to show up or something, and he's manipulating her with a visage of Anakin, and he's trying to ensure something changes. Vader's actively trying to change time, and that's a better conflict for her to have to resolve, because like she never got to see through the end of that conflict with Anakin and Vader. Because I'm like, if it's just Anakin from before, then it's like the conflict is just time traveler conflict. Do I tell him? Do I not tell him? You know, and we know she doesn't tell him because time doesn't change.
Right.
You know, and if we were to change time, the only thing we actually want to change is what's already coming next, which is episodes 7, 8, and 9. We don't want to change 4, 5, and 6. Nobody wants that, you know? So I feel like, because if it's not a dream, then how does she follow them? If it is a dream, then how does she follow them when she wakes up? You know, but if it's not a dream, then clearly the world between worlds is how she's going to get to the other galaxy to, surprise, Balin, it's a me. You know, I found a shortcut here. And they'd be like, oh, snap, you know? But, like, is it Anakin that's helping her out? Or is it Vader? And she's got enemies on all sides that are trying to play her. Like, it's a bit of a stretch, but it's a more interesting conflict than, should I tell him? Should somebody tell him he's gonna be Vader? Should anybody? No? Okay.
That's so interesting. Our listeners can't see my face, but my eyes are like bulging out of my head with this like idea that it could be Vader manipulating her. I don't want it to be that, although that would be a really interesting story.
I mean, we know it's possible because Vader's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And sociopathic.
Totally.
So, as heartbreaking as it would be, it makes sense.
No,
you know, it was in Rebels that they discovered it was possible for this, and then the Empire's still looking for stuff like that for another 4 years. There had to be another portal than just Lothal. Vader knew about it because he was on Mortis.
Yeah, and Palpatine was able to access it from wherever he was, so like he had that ability.
Emotionally, I want it to actually be Anakin for the catharsis of their reunion.
I also want that so much. But now I'm envisioning like her trying to have this conversation with him.
This is something unresolved for her.
Yeah, I'm imagining like her trying to like think it's him, and then he like, remember in toward the end of Rebels when Palpatine appears to Ezra as a hologram and he's like nice Palpatine, and then it kind of like glitches out and he's going back and forth between like nice Palpatine and Sidious. I'm picturing that with like Vader Anakin and Vader and her having to reconcile, like try to have this conversation with Anakin, and then he's like glitching and like becoming Vader, and like I'm like breaking my own heart imagining this in my own head. Okay.
I'm sorry, but I think that's what it is. Because every time I thought about if it's Anakin and he's a time traveler, I can't think of a storyline that doesn't suck. If it's Anakin and he's a Force ghost, it's kind of just like a cop-out to, hey, so you failed, but, you know, because Deus Ex Machina, you're back in the game. And also,
I would still
we're
enjoy
just doing
that.
fan service everywhere.
I would be fine with that.
We'd enjoy it.
I would be the fan that is being serviced in that way, and I would be fine with it.
But, like, it's such unearned service. And we earn everything with Ahsoka.
Service.
I was like, something's off here. Well, as a fan, of course you did.
I feel like I deserve it. I have been loyal. I deserve this.
The storytelling that Filoni does is very, like, every single event that takes place to his characters is somehow earned.
Yeah,
like,
that's true. That's true.
You know, he permanently kills characters like Kanan. He makes sure that the big sacrifice that they have to do isn't a cop-out. It's a you are gone for years, probably dead. Like, the idea that Ezra is just dead is also was teasing me during this. I was like, what if Balin just knows Ezra's dead, and Sabine has to reconcile with that too, and like come back and be like, this is family or something, you know, because now it's a handing of the torch. Ezra already had his Cambelian journey, and now it's Sabine's turn, and she could go evil, or unlike Ezra, well, Ezra also had a little bit of it, but like she could go good or bad, and Ahsoka has to not fuck up like Obi-Wan with Anakin.
Right.
Like, that's the challenge.
Right, and I think Ahsoka feels that really deeply because, you know, of what happened with Anakin. She's like, she saw that happen and is like, oh man, like being somebody's master is a huge responsibility and it can go so wrong if I do a bad job. Which could have been part of the reason that she walked away the first time. Yeah.
That's a good thought.
One thing that I wanted to mention is that this is just kind of a total change of subject. But just some kind of final thoughts. There's 2 name drops of Thrawn novels in this episode. So first is when we hear Ahsoka say, when they're talking about the possibility of Thrawn coming back, she says, better that than allowing Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire, which of course, heir to the Empire being the very first Thrawn book that was written by Timothy Zahn in the 90s, I think 91. And that was teased in the trailers and got fans really excited. But there's a second one when she says, or when Balin says, you to be, when he's talking to Sabine and he's talking about, you know, we both want the same thing, you to be reunited with your friend and I to serve a greater good. Greater good is another name of
the
the
greater
novel.
good.
Yeah. Greater good and lesser evil.
The greater good.
So I kind of...
Have you seen Hot Fuzz?
Oh yeah, not in a while though.
That's every time they say the greater good, they all echo it.
Oh, right. Yeah, so that's one of the newer Thrawn novels that's come out in the past few years. So it was kind of cool seeing them tease, or at least have Easter eggs of a Legends novel and then also a canon one. So that was cool.
Yeah, I am interested to see what Balin's ideology is all about. And it sounds like if you've read those books, then you have some idea, which is pretty cool that the groundwork is laid there. Silly question. Who would be your makeover montage buddy in this episode? And to spell that out, movies love having scenes where characters will specifically play Walking on Sunshine and try on a bunch of outfits in a mall dressing room. If you can do that with one character from the show, specifically that was in this episode, who would it be and why?
Okay. I love this question. This is so fun to think about. Here's my answer. Huyang. Because...
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I feel like...
You don't have to explain it, but do.
I feel like the only explanation it needs is for like, all right, you imagine that, and that's the explanation.
Yeah, because duh.
Yeah. But I feel like
Robot David Tennant, what more could you ask for?
First of all, he's going to give you great fashion advice because he's very honest, and he's going to tell it how it is. If it doesn't look good on you, he's going to tell you so. And if you're killing it, he's going to tell you so. But also he's got that kind of like snarky, like kind of sarcastic, like it's still that like kind of brutal honesty, but like in a really entertaining way. So it would be fun for the audience too. Like it would be that fun like makeover montage where he's got like a little like quippy like remark about something that the audience is going to enjoy, even if I'm like, hey, that was mean. And then he's just going to be like, it's true. And I'm going to be like, I can't fault you for that.
Yeah. Oh, that would be perfect.
Who's your makeover montage buddy?
Balin, all the way. And here's why.
Explain.
I love to mess with people, if our audience can't tell. Just try and imagine every time the curtain whisked aside, and he's in a new outfit that he looks completely out of place in, with that same frumpy look on his face. Every time. Just endless entertainment. Plus, you know that secretly, he's loving it. Look at how he poses throughout the episode. Big pose. Big pose. Big
That's
pose.
true.
Samurai moves, but it's another pose. Even when he's blocking Sabine's blaster blasts at the end, it's like, pose, pose, pose. The dude is a queen. And he should be elevated on a platform where he can be his best self. I feel like that's where the real comedy is. That's what I'm all about. Also,
like it.
I love that in a show full of powerful, awesome, badass, well-written women characters, when we... For the record, if anybody's wondering, we don't script this in advance. We just pick a silly question at the last second and we're like, yeah, that one. Do you have an answer? I think so. Do you? Yeah. That's literally the most we talk about this. Yeah, we both picked the only dudes in the episode for the most part.
That's true.
Somehow neither of them were the cop-out, which was Chopper. We did not pick a chop-out. And yeah, it's just super ironic.
That is ironic. But I found it interesting that I went with, I'm the one trying on outfits, and I chose the character that's giving me feedback, and you chose with the character that is trying on outfits, and you're giving them feedback.
Oh, dude, I'm sitting back. Yeah.
You're not gonna model for Balin.
I hate trying on pants. Like, over and over, take off your pants, then put your pants back on. There is nothing worse.
That's
like,
true. You're not wrong.
Like, I totally... And Balin is a skirt man. So, it's a win-win. I'm happy. He's happy. Everybody's happy.
Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Yeah. That's our show. Thanks for listening. And if you liked it, we can has feedback?
We can have
but,
feedback.
you know, only if you liked it.
Only if you liked it. If you didn't like it, then don't give us feedback. We don't want to know. Positive feedback only, please. Well, please, we can have feedback. We'll be posting new episodes whenever we get them done, whenever they're ready. Thanks, bye.